a prophecy comes and goes, and the world barely notices. And then we take a look at a brand new conspiracy. We're going to meet a man who believes that cryptids are not born, they're made. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Hope you guys are having lots of fun out there. I've had a real rough day. Real rough week, honestly. And I guess I did just tell you guys I was having a great day, but out of sorts. Things just have been weird this week. Smoking a clove for energy. If you don't know what that is, I didn't chase down a leprechaun and start smoking his suit. Cloves, you know those old cigarettes that those girls in college used to smoke so their kisses tasted good? I had them for Halloween. Girls love cloves. So if you love girls and you're going to go out partying, it's good to have a pack of cloves on you. Let's go ahead and get the episode started here. Coming into Dead Rabbit Command with my newest supply of cloves. It's a longtime listener of the show, but new to the Patreon. Give it up for Sean. Everyone give a round of applause to Sean. Walking into Dead Rabbit Command. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Sean, you're going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the Patreon, I totally understand. Just help spread the word about the show. Really, really helps out a lot. Word of mouth helps the show grow. Sean, we got a lot of stuff to cover, so no time to dilly-dally. I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the Jason Jalopy. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Command. We're heading all the way out to the corner liquor store. We're buying more cloves. But then, we're headed all the way out to Dallas, Texas. This was weird. This is a really, really weird story, and I found out about this maybe an hour ago. I was actually just reading the news, looking at stuff, and this popped up. It was an article in the Daily Beast, and I said, this is what is wrong or right, depending on the way of looking at things, with conspiracy culture. Now, I did not know this happened. Now, if this event had come out a year ago, we totally would have covered it we would have known about this event before it happened. We would have been able to make fun of it as it was coming up. But we've entered a new level of conspiracy theory content coverage where stories are no longer getting out there. I mean, you guys know the reason why. Stuff's getting demonetized. And there are certain conspiracy theories you just can't talk about anymore. They'll shut down your Twitter, they'll shut down your YouTube, shut down your podcast. Now, some people say that that's a necessary evil. Some people say it's a necessary good. Some people don't like it at all. But let's take a look and see what's going on in Dallas, Texas. November 2nd, 2021. Sean is driving the Jason Jalopy down the streets of Dallas, Texas. And you start to realize something. This path he's driving on looks quite familiar. It's almost as if I've seen it in a 16mm short film a long time ago. What's that place called? Dealey Plaza? It's where John F. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy, was assassinated. Brains everywhere. I mean, it's it's disturbing, but it's an iconic part of American history. We're watching as a president gets his brains blown out. There's no other way around it. Like, he didn't die there. It wasn't a peaceful thing. He died on an operating table. You guys may think it's insensitive that I keep saying his brains get blown out, but that's what happened. We saw this. Now, there's been tons of conspiracy theories about who shot him, but there's very few conspiracy theories that say he was never shot, because we saw that. We did a whole episode that JFK may have shot himself. We covered all these different conspiracy theories. I'll put that in the show notes. That's an old one. But very rarely do you hear a conspiracy theory saying he didn't get shot. Because we saw that. So, I did not know that I knew that conspiracy theory was out there, but I did not know it was so popular that on November 2nd, 2021, hundreds of people from across the country showed up to, I think it's Dealey Plaza. I didn't write it in my notes, but they showed up to where John F. Kennedy died on November 2nd, 2021. They showed up to that place by the grassy knoll. You guys know all that stuff better than I do. I don't even know the name of the place. Why were they there? Were they there sightseeing? Were they on the most depressing tour ever? No. These are This is what's described as a splinter faction of a splinter faction of QAnon, which has been completely driven off mainstream sites. But on Telegram, which is another social network, apparently, I've never used it, but on Telegram, apparently they've been organizing this for a while. There are these channels on Telegram that have like 98,000 subscribers. And using numerology, they were able to predict on November 2nd, 2021. If you stood at the grassy knoll right at noon, actually, I was about to make a joke, but that's literally what they were saying. If you go to this area at 12:30 p.m., a parade was going to start. This is absolutely insane. And even other people were pointing out, being like, well, there's been no permits filed with the city of Dallas for a parade. But that didn't stop these people because it's so insane you don't need a permit. It's so insane. So when people were trying to be logical, like, I don't think this is actually going to happen, people were like, no, honey, we're packing our bags, we're leaving behind New York, we're flying out to Dallas, we have to be there at 12:30 on November 2nd, 2021. Hundreds of people showed up because at 12:30 p.m., a parade was going to start. And the leader of this parade was going to be John F. Kennedy, which I might be considered tasteless for saying his brains got blown out constantly, but he's pretty tasteless if he's actually holding a parade where he faked his death. It's him. It's supposed to be his son, John F. Kennedy Jr., who is a big character in the QAnon mythos. He died in a plane crash in 1999. And that part of the QAnon, I've said that enough to completely get this podcast shut down, but we're just going to keep going here. That part of the QAnon mythos is he faked his death and teamed up with Donald Trump, and he's going to be the vice president. Like, this has been an ongoing thing that Trump's going to show up and John F. Kennedy Jr. is going to show up, and it's going to, like, unite people because people love people who fake their death. It's something Americans just can't stop voting for. They're going to have this parade. John F. Kennedy and John F. Kennedy Jr. walking down the street. And, I mean, here's the thing. That doesn't need a parade. If they literally showed up out of the blue, even if one of them, like John F. Kennedy, if John F. Kennedy showed up, he'd be like, what, like 90 now? He'd be like this, oh, look at me, my brain's intact. Like, it would be impressive, but it wouldn't be, like, you wouldn't recognize him, right? You wouldn't really recognize old John F. Kennedy. But if you saw, actually, now think about it, I wouldn't recognize John F. Kennedy Jr. if he walked in my apartment right now. He was a good-looking guy in 1999. I'm sure he's still, like, ruggedly handsome, but I don't know. You have this going on, this conspiracy theory that they're going to show up. There's going to be this big parade. The parade is made up of dead celebrities. These dead celebrities are also people who faked their death. So in this parade, this sounds like the most... This would make me not want to vote for these guys, right? I don't care what their platform is. John F. Kennedy and John F. Kennedy Jr. walking down the street. The other people behind them is Debbie Reynolds. You know Debbie Reynolds from Singing in the Rain? Her. That one thing that she did. And I think she was Princess Leia's mom. Richard Pryor, world famous comedian, Richard Pryor. Dale Earnhardt. That's dope, right? I might vote for that dude. And Robin Williams. So you're walking down that's not even a parade, by the way. That's still only 5 or 6 people. John, but here's the thing. It didn't happen. If you're scrambling to the news, if you're turning on CNN, Fox News right now to find out what Robin Williams is alive, it didn't happen. They waited there and waited there and waited there. 12:30 goes by. No parade. And then the person who made the prediction apparently was there, and he goes, oh, there's actually a Rolling Stones concert in town today, and I bet you anything, they're all going to come out to see the Rolling Stones. And everyone's like, ah. So they went to the Rolling Stones concert, which now makes me think that there was just this entire marketing scheme for the Rolling Stones concert. They didn't all go to the Rolling Stones concert. Some of them said, oh, we've been bamboozled, which is the hardest thing to do. And I know how the mindset is of a conspiracy theorist because I'm a conspiracy theorist. And I used to believe a lot of this stuff. And you're sitting there, they're telling their friends in New York for months, for a year. They've been trying to convince their friends and their family that QAnon, this whole thing, is real. Trust the plan, 2 more weeks. And then they get a prophecy. And their friends humor them, right? The family probably takes them to task, and it makes you double down. Really makes you double down. And so when a prophecy comes up and someone that you admire is on the internet saying, at this point in time, John F. Kennedy Jr. and John F. Kennedy's going to be walking down the street, pack your bags, guys, let's come on down here. You'll be one of the first people to see John F. Kennedy alive again. And really what they're saying is you will be one of the first people to be able to say, I told you so. All those months that I was talking about this conspiracy theory stuff, and all those months you humored me, or you ignored me, or you called me a loony bird, I will be right on November 2nd, 2021. So they pack their bags, they travel from all over the United States, and they're wrong. What does that do, right? What does that do to you? Because now you got to go. You've told your friends and your family, oh, no, this is it. This is it. I know I said 2 more weeks for the past 52 weeks, but this is it. And you have to go back home and you have to admit you were wrong. Conspiracy theories always seem to work better when they're very open-ended. Like 9/11 truth. Could you imagine if when the 9/11 truth or conspiracy theory started, the main thing was we'll know the truth by 2003. By 2003, he'll be impeached. George Bush will be impeached. This will all come out. If they put a time limit on it like that, it would have died out after that time limit. But they didn't, which was smart. It's just fat. But what's fat? So we can keep breaking it down like that. But what's really fascinating is I did not even know this happened. And I spend a good chunk of my day reading this stuff. And what's happened is we've pushed this underground. We've pushed these conspiracy theories underground. When a year ago, we totally would have seen this on the X board, right? So people aren't talking about it. People are afraid to get demonetized, which, fine, I get it. The networks don't want this stuff on there. They're taking it off. They're demonetizing it. They're removing it. They're deleting channels. I get that. But the blowback from that is this movement grew to the point that hundreds of people traveled from across the country to go to this thing. This was not a small movement. Getting hundreds of people to do anything is hard. I think the more you push it underneath, the bigger it's going to get. And not only will it get bigger, you won't know what's going on until something really, really bad happens. That's actually a perfect segue for our next story. Sean, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the Carpenter copter. We are leaving behind Dallas. We are headed all the way out to a laboratory in the middle of nowhere. Sean is flying this Carpenter copter nice and low over the forest. I'm reaching down. I'm grabbing berries as we're going by. We're flying to a little research center in the middle of nowhere because this truly is a scientific experiment you would never want the world to know about. We walk into this research center. We got on our lab coats and our little ID badges. We're walking around. We're happy. This is our first day of work starting work at the Remote Research Center Incorporated. We're walking around and people are like, oh, you are the new cadets. That's a word they use in science, right? We're going to lead you into this room and you'd start doing work. We hope you're qualified for whatever we've hired you for. So we go in this room, and we see all these cages, bunch of cages. We go, that's weird. I was expecting this to be a free-roaming scientific lab. Pigs and possums everywhere, whatever we experiment on. But when we go and we see these cages and we're walking by, we hear someone go, help me. Look down. What? Huh? Where'd that come from? We look towards the cage, like this theater of the mind. There's people in the cages, okay? I'm just going to cut to the chase. There's people in the cages. We don't know why we didn't notice this at first. We were too busy looking for possums. Row after row after row of humans in cages. And we're like, what is going on here? And the head scientist walks in. He goes, hello, cadets. It is your job now to put the vaccine. Okay, so you two will Hold on, YouTube. Hold on, Spotify. Before you remove the podcast, please let me explain. I do not believe any of this, okay? This is a conspiracy theory that people actually believe, and we do have to expose this stuff. Because this one's dangerous. This guy's a newcomer to the conspiracy theory scene, and he is off the charts already. Back to the narrative. You have seen those vaccines over there, guys? We need you to inject those vaccines into those people in cages. And we're like, well, why are they in cages, right? Can't they just get the vaccine if they want? Well, why do we got to give these guys a vaccine against their will? Like they can just go to Rite Aid or something like that. And that's when the scientist, he laughs. He rubs his belly. You didn't picture him as a big fat guy? Ho, 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 it's Jabba the Hutt. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, you foolish mortals. Did you get the vaccine yourself? Maybe we should have hired someone else, someone who wasn't a cryptid. I'm like, what? And that's when he directs us all to look in a giant mirror. We are monsters. Ah! That's as much scream as I can muster. Okay, so this is a conspiracy theory. And I gotta tell you, man, this guy's science it's legit. I mean, who else would you take scientific advice from someone who wasn't named Juicing and Raw Foods Sunboy? Not Sun Man. He still knows he has a long journey, but Juicing and Raw Foods Sunboy. You know that this boy spends a lot of time being healthy. Juicing stuff, juicing carrots and celery and milk, and he eats raw foods. Like those three things I just named. And I'm assuming he gets a lot of sun. Although I do have a sneaking suspicion that when he says Sunboy, I can't prove this. So if I'm in court right now trying to defend this, I'm guilty, Your Honor. I think he might be a sun starer. We've talked about those guys before. If you can't understand my speech impediment, someone who stares into the sun, a sun starer. Stargazing, no, that's a legit thing. Sun gazing. I'll put an episode in the show notes. We covered it a long time ago, but it's people who believe you can get healthy. The longer you stare at the sun, your retinas open up and it brings... I mean, this is lunacy. Okay, to be fair, I don't know if Juicing Sunboy does this, but the sun gazing, again, is just lunacy. Lunacy. But I don't know if he does that. This guy's real name, I didn't dox him. He posted it on his website all over the place, is Don Bradley. And he says he's been fighting the good fight for 2 decades. And so when I say he's new to the cause, he might have been doing the conspiracy stuff for decades. But his website is popping up all over the place. I have all sorts of ways of finding stories. I'm constantly looking for stuff. And his website is getting referenced constantly by a bunch of different sources that I check out. So this guy's becoming a major player in the game. If you go to his website, it says he has 19 followers, but I think that's because it's Blogger, and nobody uses Blogger, and I think you have to have a Blogger account. But his page reads, I imagine, is much higher than 19. This guy's an up-and-comer. This is what he believes. And he has videos about this, too. He's very into the Rumble community. When you get the vaccine, it allows a demon to enter your body. And this will slowly turn you into a skinwalker, or a crawler, or a rake. Is the term that he commonly uses is rake, but it's all kind of mushed together. It's these very large, gangly creatures, and they're just gross looking, right? They do look pretty disgusting. I wouldn't want to become one. And you become this, and then you have an insatiable need to feast on human flesh. What's interesting about the Skinwalker is that I did an episode on this. I saw a crawler. I didn't know what it was. I figured it was something weird. I didn't know what it was. If it was a ghost or like a bear with mange. A lot of people think it's that, which is equally terrifying. I've seen him twice. Saw him twice, and it was maybe in a matter of like a week. So it could have been a big giant wolf with mange walking around, right? But I saw it and I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really know how to classify it. I mentioned it on the episode almost offhandedly. I was like, oh yeah, one day I saw this thing. I think I told the story a little more passionately than that, but it wasn't the main thrust of the episode. And then after that, I found out that this was something called a crawler. There's sightings of them all over. I was aware of the term rake. I was aware of the creepypasta, but I never put the two and two together. And as far as skinwalkers go, I just figured they were some sort of nature beast that can mimic people's voices, smelled like wet pennies, all this stuff. So now we're having this combination of all these things. And I think that's fair. I think you could combine them in a sense. But Sunboy is saying that when you get the vaccine, you become a skinwalker. And you have this insatiable need for flesh. And I know what you're thinking when somebody tells you this. Your first thing is, can I get a booster shot? Can I get the vaccine right now so I can quickly turn into this monster who feeds on flesh? Well, you can give those things. I don't think it's actually going to... Oh, well, let me rephrase that. It's not going to do those things. But I think your second question is, what would be the point? What would be the point of turning 90% of the world's population into bloody monsters running around eating people? And that's always the thing that's missing in these conspiracy theories. The idea of the Illuminati taking over the planet and culling the population. There's only 3 million people left on the planet, and now they rule. And then the question I always ask, and then what? Think about this. This is what I've always thought was so weird. You have the Illuminati, this conspiracy theory, and they're trying to depopulate the planet. They're trying to cut it down to 11 million people or whatever was written on the Georgia Guidestones. And then what is always my question, because the only people left out of that 11 million would be the most insufferable, manipulative people ever, because they killed off 6.9 billion other people. You wouldn't want to hang out with those maniacs. The second the Illuminati plan goes into action, they're slitting each other's throats. And they know it. But the problem is that the conspiracy theorists are like, oh no, they should be afraid of these groups, right? Trying to take over the world and things like that. But it's never going to work. And we all, if you put any sort of thought into it, the second they went into motion, you think Bill Gates is going to have one arm around George Soros and the other arm around the Koch brothers and be like, it's finally happening. We're finally released this virus that's going to kill everyone. And now we're in charge. No, those guys hate each other. Could you imagine being on a planet, the only people left are the richest, most manipulative, evil people ever? You want to rule over sheep. You don't want to spend the last days of humanity tearing at wolf flesh as they tear at yours. So that's the thing that always, when you keep going steps forward, that's when the conspiracy theories fall apart. So imagine if 80% of the population of America became flesh-eating ghouls that had the powers of skinwalkers. They can mimic, they can crawl up walls, they're really fast. Okay, then what? Are those ghouls going to be electing people? Are those ghouls going to be paying taxes? It doesn't make any sense why Bill Gates would want to turn the world into ghouls, into flesh-eating ghouls. Unless he just wants more friends because Jeffrey Epstein's dead and he misses them. This conspiracy theory, as goofy as it is super, super dangerous. And it's not dangerous in the way that you're thinking. I'm sure there are people who hear something like this and go, I'm not getting vaccinated. I'm sure there are people who go, what? I don't want to become a skinwalker. If I became Bigfoot, I might do it, but I don't want to become a skinwalker. I'm not getting vaccinated. That's not why I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous because this guy who's really, I think, starting to blow up in the community, the reason why it's dangerous is because he states that once this process begins, once you've gotten the injection and you start to become the crawler or the skinwalker, it's too late. The only thing you can do is kill them. And this is such a weird addition to that. And any future victims it wants to eat. What? Not currently eating, not putting them out of their misery. If someone already has the vaccine, you have to terminate him. That's the terminology used. Terminate. And any future victims it wants to eat. Bizarre conspiracy theory. And that's the dangerous part. People can disagree. But imagine just clapping someone in the back of the head, JFK style, because you're afraid he's going to become a skinwalker because he got the vaccine. And that might sound absurd. But as I'm reading this guy's rants, I'm remembering very clearly a story that just happened not too long ago, September 30th, 2021, Howard County, Maryland. Jeffrey Burnham, 46-year-old man. This is all alleged. Jeffrey Burnham, 46-year-old man. His brother was a pharmacist who was giving out the vaccine. And he was arguing with his brother, and he was telling his mom, I know there's something in the vaccine, and Brian knows there's something in the vaccine, and blah, 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 blah. And he needed to get to the bottom of it. And he needed to solve this problem, not just for himself, but for the rest of us. He murdered an old lady, 86-year-old woman, stole her car, drove to his brother's house, and murdered his brother and his brother's wife. See, that's not someone who disagrees with vaccine mandates. That's not someone who is anti-vax. I mean, he's probably those things as well. His issue wasn't simply the vaccine mandate. His issue simply wasn't personal choice. I don't want to get the vaccine. His issue was some bizarre conspiracy theory that his brother was doing untold damage to civilization, so he executed 3 people. It's not a we agree to disagree situation, not a personal choice type of thing. He believed in a conspiracy theory so much that he killed 3 people. And how many times have we covered people like this on the show? We had the guy who wanted the AIG report released. That's an old episode. There was supposed to be that AIG report released that would exonerate Trump and get Hillary arrested. And this was like way early on in Trump's presidency. He took an armored car and blocked the road to the Hudson Dam, I think it was. And we had the guy who, during the coronavirus panic when it first started, wanted to expose the secret. Remember when Trump ordered those boats off the coasts? Because we didn't know how bad it was going to get. We didn't need them, but we didn't know at the time. We ordered those boats off to the coasts, and he took a train he was driving. You remember this? We did this episode. He drove a train off the tracks, hoping to run it into a Navy vessel. And when he crashed into it, it would expose the truth. It would expose to the world that they were lying about COVID. Now, the armored car guy, I think he ended up getting like 15 years in prison. He's done. I don't remember off the top of my head. And the train guy, I think that trial is still going on. But that's the thing. Like, conspiracy theories are fun. Some of them are true, right? Some of them are true. A lot of them aren't, but they're fun to talk about, or they're fun to daydream about. Oh, that'd be cool. If 80% of the world became ghouls, right? As long as I'm not one of the ghouls and I get to fight the ghouls. However, I'm going to say this, if I ever become a zombie or a ghoul and I don't get to eat at least one person, I'm going to be super disappointed. I hope it's not someone close to me. I hope it's not like I die in my sleep and then I wake up and I go, "Arr!" and I bite the survivor next to me. But John F. Kennedy Jr., he was so handsome, I couldn't resist. I hope it's not that, but if I become a zombie, I hope I'm allowed to just wander the wilderness for a while and kind of like look up at the stars a bit and chase a couple squirrels and then, maybe attack a bad guy right before he's about to do a bad thing. He has the gun and he's doing the monologue and I sneak up and I take a bite out of his neck. I'm down. If I'm going to become a zombie, I don't want to be a zombie or a ghoul, but if I have to be one, I want to eat at least one person. Because that's part of the experience, right? If you don't, that's like going to Paris and not seeing the Eiffel Tower. It's fun to explore conspiracy theories, but just some people take these so seriously, and some people just throw gas on that fire constantly. This guy has he's really putting out a lot of content. He has this thing called black-eyed babies. If you thought black-eyed children were a problem, get ready for the new version. It's black-eyed babies. They grow 4 times as fast and they can talk by 4 months or something like that. I don't know anything about babies. For all I know, that's normal. But they have black eyes, right? That's not normal. Black-eyed babies. Did you know Dybbuk in reverse is phonetically COVID? So like a Dybbuk box? I don't even know where he was going with that. I don't even think that's true. But Dybbuk in reverse phonetically is COVID. So he's attaching the COVID virus to the Dybbuk box, which is actually something we totally debunked. Put that episode in the show notes. It's this box that's supposed to hold a Jewish demon, so make of that what you will. And then he has a video. I haven't watched it yet. This is a bit of a cliffhanger. I'll watch it tomorrow and get back to you maybe. He has a video. Never mind. I'm just going to watch it right now. Let's see where this goes. Because I'm so curious about this video. This is the description. Chef Gunter, who is happy to feed you the dead. I'm like, yummy, yummy, yummy. I just became a skinwalker. Chef Gunter, who is happy to feed you the dead, is having a special today. This is so bizarre. This guy, I think I'm going to be going to this guy's website a lot. He's having a special today. Braised? I think that's like when you put sauce on them. Braised white girl in a sphincter sauce. You're like, Jason, please don't watch this video, bro. Please don't watch this video. Here, I gotta. Because I don't think it's anything gross. I mean, I don't know. It's on Rumble. Who knows what it could be? It's all, go to Live Leak to check this out. Let's see what this is, and then we'll wrap the episode up. That was a prank show, actually. I just watched the clip, so I know you guys are all hoping that I had stumbled across a real-life footage of cannibalism, so I would no longer want to eat people as a zombie. But yeah, it was a prank show. I don't know why conspiracy theorists have the worst sense of humor. Have you guys noticed that? They cannot take a joke at all. Every joke is some sort of coded message. So it makes sense that this is a David Spade show, and he watches it and he thinks, wow, this is real. This is real. He says it's normalizing it. It's normalizing. But whatever, dude. Just get a sense of humor. This stuff isn't real. And I'm just really, really afraid that his teachings are going to end really badly for a lot of innocent people. Or maybe just even one, right? I'm not the thought police. I can't tell him to stop writing this stuff. But I'm just afraid that someone is truly going to believe that if you do this, if you get this vaccine, you're going to become a demon, and the only way to stop it is to kill the person who took the vaccine. That's a dangerous conspiracy theory, and it's dangerous on a very personal level. Government did 9/11. You can not pay your taxes, you can hate the government, you can vote for someone different. This conspiracy theory is, if you know someone who got vaccinated, only you know what to do about it. That is a terrifying message to spread to people who already have a hard time telling the difference between truth and fiction, between a prank show and real life. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be your email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.